If unwanted thoughts are taking over, don't wait to get help. Visit nocd.com to book a free call with their team.
If you want to get our shows ad-free and our exclusive shows, go to patreon.com/kindafunny.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kinda Funny Gamescast for Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Forbes 30 Under 30, a.k.a. New York Game Awards nominated, a.k.a. PlayStation Poppy, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good day, Greg.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good.
What's up? Would you looking at me like that? What's on your
A
mind?
little sleight of hand. When you were looking at my eyes, I took the coaster. You didn't.
Oh,
You know what I mean? You didn't.
He's always
that's not
stealing
your
from me.
wallet.
Wow. Oh, no.
Wallet, yeah.
I did get a new wallet, by the way.
Let's see it.
It's very thin now.
Stop it.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, Blessing had a
Stop
George
it.
Costanza wallet. He had a.
Yeah.
It's in ice.
Well,
Whoa!
yeah, it's
That
very
is
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
How's it feel? New life?
I keep getting scared I'm going to lose it.
Sure.
It's so light that I'm like, if it's not, like,
Yeah.
don't pickpocket me. But if it's not there, I wouldn't notice. You know what I mean? With other wallets, like, you steal that from me, I'm going to know.
Yeah,
We'll hire a couple people
Yeah,
to like test it
try.
out on you.
Oh
you know?
no, please no. But yeah, it's like I don't like. Should I even be putting this in my back pocket? You know what I mean? Like, where do I even?
Sure.
It's like a whole new world now with this new
Yeah,
wallet.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
I love that.
Over there, it's the master of hype, Snowback Mike.
Hello, Greg. Great to see you. Good
Great
morning.
to see you.
As someone who has a wallet very similar to that, please be mindful if you put the wallet in your back pocket and then your cell phone on top of that, you reach for your cell phone, usually pulls the wallet out with you. It'll fall on the
Yeah.
ground. Be mindful of that.
Be mindful.
Okay?
Demir.
How far from just being done with wallets altogether?
Oh.
I know we're close, but like, you figure you can have most of your all your credit cards on your phone right now. Google Pay, Apple Pay, you got that going.
Mhm.
I know they got IDs you can put on your phone, but you can't drive with those, right? Is that? I don't think it counts as a license. I think it's just an ID. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the ID is the last thing because I was doing the thing where I was like, okay, thin wallet. I got to get down to the bare essentials. What do I really need?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Like I can get most my train card, my Clipper card. I can get on my phone.
Yeah.
I guess my laundry card because I go to the laundromat. I can't put that on my
laundry
phone.
card, okay,
Yeah, so I do have that. And then yeah, my credit cards.
Yeah.
I don't have
yeah.
cash really.
Yeah.
Gotta always
Did
keep
you
a little
even-
cash on you.
Did you even consider getting the wallet that attaches to the phone? That is just your cards are on the back of your phone or whatever. You seen those?
I've seen those.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's scary to me.
I hear
don't
you.
know.
I
I don't
hear
know
you.
why. It's just changed.
Yeah, change in general is scary. Isn't that right, Mike?
Change is scary. And you know what? When we talk about change, changing the big dog behind us is a little scary. It's a
Let's
little
talk
exciting.
about changing PlayStation. If you didn't know, everybody, this is the Kinda Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday, we run you through the biggest topics in gaming, whether they be reviews, previews, or just things we need to talk about. We couldn't do it without our Patreon producers on patreon.com/kindafunny. So thank you, Carl Jacobs, Omega Buster, Delaney, the Psalm Twining. Remember, if you want to be part of the show and tell me how you'd fix PlayStation, YouTube Super Chat right now, youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Of course, we're live on Twitch, but over on YouTube, that's where you can Super Chat, get your questions, comments, concerns, topics read here on the show. Of course, like, subscribe, share, pick up a membership, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, topic of the show. It is How to Fix It week at Kinda Funny. Of course, Tuesday kicked off with How to Fix Kinda Funny, because we're far from infallible, but pretty close. Yesterday was a banger of an episode, How to Fix Xbox. Mike, great job with the presentation.
Thank you so much. And shout out to the audience for being very active and involved. I will say the YouTube comments through the roof on this one. A lot of engagement, a lot of excitement, a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And so I hope that they all bring it for this one as well.
When you say passion, were they nice? I don't read the YouTube comments.
They were very
usually.
nice. They were very
Really?
nice.
Okay, hell
They were
yeah, that's
excited
good,
to
that's
talk
good.
about what they would do. I think the big one to remember is like we were talking in a dream world, right? What would CEO Mike in a dream world do? So like try to remember that when you come up with crazy ideas, you know?
Well, today's the day to jump into PlayStation. How to fix PlayStation is our topic. And I feel this has got a lot of PS I Love You XOXO DNA in it. A lot of top.
I feel like this
talking.
was every topic on PS I Love You XOXO.
Towards the end, maybe, but it wasn't even as bad as it became, and then as wherever we are now. But that does lead to the first topic. I'll kick to you, Blessing.
Oh.
Does it need fixing? Does
Does it
PlayStation need fixing? I think with Xbox, at least from my perspective,
Yeah.
Xbox was the serious, oh God, how do you save this? What are we going to do with this brand? Blah, blah, blah. PlayStation is the more energetic, interesting. I can't believe they're doing this, but it doesn't seem like they're in free fall. Would you term it as do they need fixing?
I think fixing implies that something's broken.
Yeah.
And would I say PlayStation is broken? I don't know if I'll go that far, but I do think there are plenty of things that you can make better. I do think there are plenty of improvements to make. I think this generation, especially, like, I think PlayStation has been broken this generation, is what I'll say. I don't think the system of PlayStation is broken. I don't think we can. I don't think next generation necessarily is going to be a copy of this generation. Fingers crossed. But right now, for sure, I think there are things that could be fixed.
Michael, is PlayStation broken?
I like that answer, Bless, because I'm on the opposite side. PlayStation is not broken, and it does not need fixing. You were in first for a reason. You have solidified this gap, this lead, this margin. You have created a community of diehard fans that are in it to win it and are a part of this from now until doomsday, most likely. And I do not see a reason why we need to fix it. Now, of course, when we get into this topic, I will have improvements I'd like to see. But truly and honestly, right now, PlayStation does not need any fixing. They need to stay the course.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the one for me of like, does PlayStation need fixing? And again, I come at it from a more fun topic than it's the end of the world, like we were, I think, a little bit with Xbox. And I think if at the very least they need tweaking. Like, I really feel, to your point, Mike, of the diehard PlayStation audience, I think that has been eroded. And that's not to say that there aren't diehard PlayStation fans, but I just don't feel the fandom the way I did when we were doing Beyond and we were talking PS3 and we were talking PlayStation 4 and PSX. And I know, of course, I'm part of that equation of like, well, I'm not running a PlayStation podcast anymore and I'm not doing that. But it's like, even outside of that, I think it was a conversation we had in a super chat last week on the shows, maybe, where I made a similar point knowing we were going to get here. And somebody said, well, it's like, you're crazy. PlayStation's more mainstream than ever. Look at all the top games, Call of Duty, Madden, etc. They're all there and they're all on PlayStation. And my point was, like, that's, for me, the part of the problem is that PlayStation, I think, has been happy to lose its identity and become mainstream. It's just the place you play your games on, which is then eroded out of like, well, why are you buying this over another box? Why are you buying this as... Let's take memory loss out of the conversation. Why are you buying this over PC, right? When it's like, okay, well, I'm doing it for a few exclusives, and this PlayStation 5 lineup of exclusives hasn't been PlayStation.
Yeah, Greg, when you introduced me as PlayStation Poppy, part of me wanted to stop you, but you called me Xbox Poppy yesterday, so I know you're
the Poppy overall.
But like, to your point, I looked at my PlayStation Wrapped last year, and I looked at my Steam Wrapped and all the different wraps they did, and last year, for the first time probably ever for me, Steam was my number one platform. Steam had overtaken PlayStation for me, and it's to everything you're saying, where I'm kind of just like, I just find PC right now, for me at least, the best place to play. Of course, console has the benefits if you're somebody who's looking for something that's approachable, easy, don't have to worry about drivers and all that shit, right? Console's right there for you. But even with the games, right? Like, I look at Ghost of Yotei. It's not a bad game whatsoever. Great game, in fact, right? But that didn't really excite me. Like Spider-Man 2, I'll say the same thing. It's like, that's a great game. Doesn't really excite me on the level of what we were talking about toward the end of the PS4 generation with like Spider-Man 1, Horizon 1, Ghost of Tsushima. I know I'm saying the same franchises, but
that's the point.
When they were new and when they were fresh, it felt like a different thing. And God of War 2018 and all this stuff. This generation feels like it's almost like the remastered version of the previous generation, which just doesn't sit as exciting to me as a player.
Something I say around here, and I'll kick it right back to you after this, but something I say in the office here a lot, and I've been talking to Jen about, right, is like, this is going to sound highfalutin, but I really love the team and the content we make here. But what Kind of Funny does is an 11-person business every day is extraordinary. But when you do it every day, it becomes ordinary. And I think we're back to that, to your point of like, Spider-Man 2, all right, it's more Spider-Man. Like, you're not going to get the same Spider-Man reaction because the jig's up and it's a great game and that's awesome. But does that go down as someone's favorite game of all time, their favorite PlayStation game
Horizon Forbidden West. I'm a Horizon Forbidden West defender when I see all the hate online, but I also get it at the same time.
Yeah.
When it is the thing of like, all right, like the story, Horizon Forbidden West story plot-wise wasn't necessarily a step up. Maybe it was a step sideways. Some parts of it, I would say, were maybe a little bit worse than the first game, right?
Yeah.
But that game's great. But yeah, it's just not landing the same way because I think it's just not as fresh
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you guys bring that up because I think every new IP that PlayStation puts out is that fresh, oh wow moment, right? You bring up Horizon, we'll get Soros coming up here, which is kind of fresh, but also
And I'm wondering,
but
we had this conversation yesterday, does that work?
Right.
Is it going to be, it's more Returnal? Or is it going to be
Intergalactic, I think, will be like the wow moment again.
Yeah.
But I would push back on you, Greg, of like
Please push on me
the
all day.
super fans. I do feel like that in gaming culture has kind of evolved and moved away, right? And I think that is also easy to say when you're in first place and you are the juggernaut, everyone is a PlayStation fan because we're doing that now, right? It's like everyone's already here, so you're not getting much pushback. I think we are, as gamers, like moved on from that. It's like we're just here to celebrate good games and we're playing them wherever they are.
Yeah.
When it comes to the console stuff, I think during COVID, maybe when PlayStation backed out of E3 as well, that was kind of the end of like the PlayStation mega fans, hoorah, we're celebrating it.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we just celebrate good games now. And so you don't probably hear that as much as it used to be, is how I feel about that.
Yeah. I think, what's going to be interesting and fun about this show is both, or I guess, trio of us, all of us here at the table are going to talk from a passion perspective and a fan perspective, right? I think already with the audience and super chats I'm getting here, please keep them coming in. I'm seeing a lot of passion, a lot of fans. Shout out to Triforce Power, bring back Vita, bring back Kevin Butler.
Man.
We're talking about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what, everybody? What if these three chuckleheads, these thousands of chuckleheads, shut the fuck up for a second? And we went to somebody who maybe wasn't going to speak from the passion point of view, would instead speak from the number point of view. So I reached out to the one, the only, Matt Piscatella at Circana, and I asked a couple simple questions on a DM over on BS. That's a blue sky, Tim. It was basically, we're doing this episode, how to fix PlayStation. Does it need to be fixed from your numbers perspective? And Matt wrote back a dissertation, which I adore. Thank you, Matt Piscatella. So we'll jump in right now. Of course, Circana, if you didn't know, the industry tracking group, it used to be NPD, pays attention to all the numbers, the trends. They're the ones telling you what the top games selling were, et cetera, et cetera. Matt says, so in my opinion, with PlayStation, it's not about fixing, but more about ensuring the future. Right now, PlayStation is in a strong position across hardware, content, and accessories globally. But with a hardware market that is currently ... let's call it uncertain to perhaps understate the situation a bit, and a younger demographic that is more readily accepting of PC and mobile devices, parentheses, and is stuck with the big three of Roblox, Fortnite, and Minecraft for years now. How can PlayStation encourage and maintain a healthy player base for years to come? They've been engaging with new and emerging methods of play and business models like cloud, subscription, and PC for years, but have kept the console front and center to take the greatest advantage of the current market. But now that this may be forced to change, parentheses, let me emphasize may, as the future is a hell of a long way from clear at the moment. How will PlayStation make its umbrella bigger to make those more easily accessible areas more prevalent while not discouraging the currently more console-based audience? Coming off of yesterday, this is Greg interjecting, coming off of yesterday's Xbox conversation and my whole thing of like, cart before the horse, they were early on cloud, it could have been a bigger deal. Matt's talking the inverse of it, which I really do love. PlayStation has that shit, but they're only talking about the consoles. Can't wait to dive into that. They have to balance the potential future with the now. Something PlayStation has done better than any of the other major manufacturers, in my opinion. I worry that recent changes may have slowed that flexibility a bit in hopes of securing the current console forward state of things, but who knows? So yeah, TLDR, keep doing what they're doing, parentheses, outside of the all-in on the live service blip. And pray that things in the macro market stop being insane. And make NAC 3.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Funny enough, that one of the things, and Matt puts it better in detail than I think I ever could, right? But like one of the things I was thinking about was there's a scene in one of my favorite action movies, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Where Tom Steamboat, aka Tom Cruise, he's climbing on the side of the largest building in Dubai.
Yes.
And as he's climbing, he's on this mission. He's determined. He's like, I know what I got to do. And he's doing the Tom Cruise thing. It's like, I'm carrying this thing out. And then he looks back, and in the very, very, very far distance, there's a gigantic sandstorm that's on the way. And as the audience, as the viewer, you're like, oh shit, that's gonna come into play later. Like, we're gonna see what's up with that thing later on in the movie. And I feel like right now we are Tom Cruise on the side of the Dubai building looking and being like, what's on the horizon? Because all the things we talk about, right? Like whether it be younger audiences putting more time into the big three of Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, whether it be the rising costs of hardware and all these things, I do think that something's got to give. And that's why yesterday, like me and Mike continued the conversation of the Xbox thing into the marathon stream that me and him were doing. Not a marathon stream, the marathon video game, the
hit PlayStation video game.
Yeah. The hit PlayStation. I don't know if I'd say hit, but it was the PlayStation video game that we liked. And one of the things I mentioned is that I think Xbox is poised to maybe overtake PlayStation in the next generation or two, because potentially if they carry out the like Series S type, like, hey, let's have something that's accessible, approachable, easy for people to, or maybe not easy, but available for people to buy at a lower price than other hardware. That's going to be such a big deal. Like, value is going to be such a big deal. And I don't know what that looks like for PlayStation providing that value to people if PlayStation 6 is over $1,000, right? If PS7 is $1,500.
Well, there, I think the interesting wrinkle about being Herman Hulse on the side of the building and seeing the sandstorm coming, right? What I've brought up a million times and I want to bring back out, of course, is that CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, Tao Lin, who talked about the shareholders and talked to the shareholders about the audience, right? Stick with me. I'm going to read from Polygon's Patricia Hernandez reporting. Based on Sony's early February earnings call, where CFO Lin detailed the Japanese company's latest business strategy to shareholders, Lin's presentation noted that while sales of the new PlayStation 5 units are declining, Sony saw a small uptick in monthly active users for the console in December 2025. Revenue from PlayStation Plus, Sony's gaming subscription service, quote-unquote, reached a record high, end quote, last quarter, Lin said. Sony intends to keep negotiating with suppliers to keep costs down on the hardware front, but the trajectory of these negotiations is hard to predict. In the short term, Sony needs to find a way to keep making money. Quote, given the stage of our console cycle, our hardware sales strategy can be adjusted flexibly, and we intend to minimize the impact of increased memory costs on this segment going forward by prioritizing monetization of the installed base to date. I think that is such an important quote. And this is before they raise the price, Pro up to $150, $100, et cetera, down to $50 for the Portal. I think that's so important because I really do think, even though that sounds bad to a degree of monetizing, I think that is where we are headed. That storm is going to come ashore here and hit them. And when they do, I think that they're in such a different spot than Xbox is. On the Xbox show yesterday, I talked so much about how I don't trust Microsoft coming down on them. This is bad. Eventually, Microsoft goes, fuck it, Xbox is dead, Microsoft gaming, that's what we're doing, yada, yada, yada. PlayStation being so successful already, when this storm hits, and it gets worse, as I've been predicting it will, or whatever, I really do see them hemorrhaging. More closures, it sucks. More layoffs, it sucks. But getting back down to, shit, we need to have the rallying cry of, this is PlayStation. And going back, even, I'm not talking numbers and it being that dire, but going back to that PlayStation 3 into 4 mentality of like, no, we are Groot. You are PlayStation. We are celebrating that. We are talking to the audience and talking about the exclusives and talking about the developers and having a face that's actually connected to all this. Because for me, that's what I would fix about PlayStation now, both getting ready for that, but also think a little bit of what I talked about with Xbox. Like, PlayStation was at its best when there were faces attached to PlayStation. When it was that, yeah, you could buy a PlayStation and just play the biggest games and never know the people behind your games. But when there was a Shu and there was an Adam and there was a Jackie T, Jack Trenton out there, like, that was fun for us, and it became, you knew more about what was going on. And as PlayStation 4 took PlayStation to the stratosphere by having such a simple thing, Mark Cerny being out there on stage, we know we fucked up with the cell processor in PS3. This is easy to develop for. It's about games. Well, Xbox said it's about Call of Duty and TV and Call of Duty and TV. Like, they went the opposite direction. PlayStation cooked them. And they lived in that for a while with the sharing video, Adam and Shu, all that different stuff that we loved. And then once they got humongous, they didn't want people talking anymore. So they shut that down. People left the company. Now Herman's there, but Herman barely speaks ever. You're just at a place now where it's just a brand. And I think just being a brand can have brand loyalty, but it doesn't have that all the shit's going south and I am committed to this platform feel to it.
It's fun.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
It's funny how I feel like some of our talking points here are going to so much echo some of the Xbox points, because I know Mike kind of brought up the same thing with Xbox of like, bring back Major Nelson, bring back some faces that we can actually connect with. I think one of my main points in talking about this is to Greg's thing of, we got to get back to like prime PlayStation. We got to lock in and like, focus to weather the storm is IP and is the video games. Let's get back to making the video games that people care about and want to play, right? Like
games.
I look back at late PS4 generation as like, damn, we were living. Going back to the games that I was mentioning, whether it be God of War 2018, Spider-Man, Horizon, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, right? Like these are within a 3-year period of each other. If I was to reach back further, it would be Bloodborne, right? Like Uncharted 4. This generation, we've seen so much development time get lost to this live service push, and these games either not coming out or coming out and disappearing in 2 weeks because oh shit, this didn't work, people didn't actually want this. I'm not necessarily of the team wipe all live service from existence from PlayStation. I think there could be something there. Of course, me, Mike, Andy are loving Marathon, and like that's a game I want to continue to see live, even though I get scared. I was telling Mike before, I'm like, if Marathon shuts down, I'm out of here. I'm not doing video games anymore. I'm done. But we got to get back to giving people the games that they want, right? Yeah. Video games take a long time to make. I shouldn't be waiting this long between like some of these bigger PlayStation titles, whether it be something like an Uncharted, whether it be something like The Last of Us, whether it be something like even Intergalactic, right? Like,
and I would, if I jump in to go with your point here, you shouldn't be waiting so long between big PlayStation titles. And I would go as far as to say Ghost of Yote, Uncharted, other studios. You just mentioned 3 Naughty Dog games, sure. But it used to be that it felt like, all right, well, Sony Bend will put out their game, and then Sucker Punch will do this. Then we'll get the Naughty Dog game. Then it'll be a Gran Turismo. Then you pepper it. You could see where we were going and see the lineup of why you're dedicated to PlayStation.
And to take it a step further, and this again will echo some of what we talked about with Xbox. I look at Naughty Dog. I look at, all right, you guys are all in on Intergalactic right now. Game's looking great. Awesome. Hey, somebody else is making Uncharted. I don't care if you don't want somebody else to make Uncharted. We are PlayStation. We own the IP. We need this right now because financial times are getting tough. We're taking Uncharted and we're giving it to a Blue Point RIP, or we're giving it to a studio that we own that would spend better time working on this than to make the next Days Gone that comes and goes.
Turned out it was baby steps.
You nailed it for me, Bless, of like, I was going to echo exactly what you say, right? Yeah. Comes down to the games. And I'm interested to have the conversation about the face, right? Because I don't think PlayStation needs a face. They have the games. I think the games speak to the modern audience out there. I don't think they need a face anymore. They just want to see the games, right? When you bring up that article of like, hey, the consoles are slowing down, how do we now make more money off the install base? I think it comes down to Blessing, plain and simple. The games are taking too long to make, right? We need more games out there. You're seeing that. Hey, how do we get that install base to be engaged more and spend more money? Because that's what we need. Consoles aren't selling. Yeah, you're in first place. You've sold all the consoles you need. You need to start making more games. And on the opposite side, what I always think is like Xbox tried to get themselves to that point by buying up all these studios, so they have a ton of games. PlayStation, on the opposite side, went with quality over quantity. Yeah. But now you're hitting the point where it's like, hey, those quality titles are taking so long to make that you are missing out on the dollars that we are willing to spend because we don't have the lineup, like you said, Greg, right? Of like, we're not hitting the lineup that we need, or maybe we need to start making smaller titles to fit into here, like an Astrobot, a Sly Cooper, a Ratchet and Clank.
Or start finding those smaller titles. We're back to, arguing about exclusivity and stuff, second party, but like, for PlayStation to come in and support some of the weirder games that are coming out of Japan, right? And get back to having that, like, even though it was Japan studio at the time, a local Roco, a Patapon feel. Get something like that over here. Again, that's what I'm talking about with a brand identity. And I do think you 100% can be, there isn't a face of the company. Instead, it is Astrobot and Sackboy and Nathan. But when we're in a generation, right, where I feel it's so few and far between, that's where it would be so helpful to have a shoe that is just talking to the audience and putting out a thing.
And like, again, we're talking about these companies that have a war chest of IP. Where is Sly Cooper? Yeah. I understand, hey, all your studios are busy. Cool. There are so many other studios that I know would be down to do a second party. Hey, we are partnering with PlayStation and we're going to make a Sly Cooper game.
Yeah, the second party option is such a great option right here, right? It's like you have the war chest, you have the idea, you have the IPs that really mix well with the PlayStation audience. Why are we not seeing an awesome indie dev team that's out there or a small AA team and going, hey, how do we support you by you giving us what we need and our players need? And that's that game, right? They should be doing that for sure.
Yeah, and I would extend that to, like, we can sit here and list so many IP where it's like, man, you guys aren't really doing anything. Jack and Daxter. I would even say, I know we got Ratchet and Clank at the beginning of this generation. Like, Insomniac, they're busy working on these Marvel games, man. Like, and I understand, hey, if they want to continue, if they see like, oh, after we get through this thing, we're gonna make Ratchet, that's cool. But if we're 3 games away from a potential Ratchet and Clank game, who can we give it to at least experiment with it a little bit and try something fresh with it?
Yeah.
The chat brings up, of course, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. They did that, and they got a Metacritic score of a 70 with Sons of Sparta, right? I would push back on that and be like, yeah, more of that, right? There should be more people in your sandbox playing and creating for you. That's the first time we've seen a God of War game that's not the big, epic narrative adventure God of War game ever, right? And it's like, hey, we need more of those. We need
I don't think
a lot of that.
You know, in researching for this episode, right, I ran into one of the interviews with Herman where he was talking about the live service push, Concord, etc.
Yes.
And him being like, I don't want it to be a place where you can't fail. I want us to learn from the failings and yada yada. I don't think the lesson from Sons of Sparta is, oh fuck, don't do spin-offs. Don't do. It's like no.
Or Lego Horizons, right?
Do things that are more true to the IP, more true to the characters, right?
Yeah.
Like if we were going to go and somebody was going to be, hey, I'm making a Sly Cooper. We go to a smaller 20-person, a Way Forward, whoever, and we're like, give me a 2D side-scrolling Sly Metroidvania. Like, you know what I mean? It's not
like a top-down stealth game or something.
Yeah, there's let's not spend the 4 to 5 years making a true 3D. We're spinning the camera around Sly. Sly's been gone long enough. He did have his 4th game come out from Sanzaru. Rest in peace. Thank you so much, Meta. Like, let people take these things and make you faster titles to fill these gaps between the next big things.
Barrett?
Also, I think really the lesson from Sons of Sparta, even though Mega Cat was the one to pitch it, like I don't know if that was the team who has mainly been doing backyard baseball for the last couple of years. I don't know if that was the team to really see a Metroidvania, like saying, like doing like true to the character stuff. Like I do think a Metroidvania and God of War like would have fit with the right team.
100%. I think.
I think you got to take chances. Is right, Greg. Like you said, right. We need more to fill in here. And someone wrote in, it's like PlayStation is afraid to take that hit in quality, and it's like, no. I don't think that at all. Like. Players know what they're going to get when that banner pops up and you see all the iconic names there. These smaller titles, I don't think players are going, if this isn't a 10 out of 10, I'm going to be so disappointed, right? I think they're going to celebrate more titles here.
Street Shadow 20 says, Patapon, Ape Escape, Stray, Sifu, etc. are not system selling, but they are deals that build a library that I don't want to give up. I need PlayStation to lean into those smaller titles, be a little weird. That piggybacks off to the thing I was talking about from last week. Where if we're going to sit here and be like, no, there's more PlayStation gamers than ever, but we're talking about the biggest titles, that is an audience that is ready to move. Whether it be, okay, cool, the Steam machine is cheap and affordable and gets me all this other stuff, great. Whether it is, oh man, Play Anywhere is exciting. You can't rest on your laurels right now and be like, well, we have PlayStation's conquered the console market. Nothing's going to happen. There's plenty of steam or sand coming at you in the storm you need to be ready for.
Yeah, and I know there's the big financial conversation about it, and then there's the community conversation about it as far as how you measure the importance of a game like a Sifu, or I think back to Chicory A Colorful Tale, which I don't think that was exclusive. I don't remember if that was exclusive, but I played that on PlayStation because PlayStation had adopted that as a PlayStation indie when they were making that a thing toward the beginning of the PS5 generation. And like, I missed that. There's a era where I would look at PlayStation, and granted, it's because I think I mainly had a PlayStation in 2014 or 2015, right? But like, I looked at that library and went, damn, like, I want to try out a Rogue Legacy. It was Vita, that's what it was. I want to try out a Rogue Legacy. I want to try out these cool indie games. And I feel like a lot of that has been lost to PC and
100%.
Nintendo, and even with Game Pass, right? Like a little bit of Xbox as well, because that investment doesn't feel like it's as strong. And you can make the financial argument of, well, PlayStation, they're most worried about them big bucks. They're most worried about getting people to come over so they can play Fortnite or Genshin, or I don't know if Roblox is on PlayStation. I assume it is. Roblox or whatever, Minecraft, right? Like they're looking at that wide net of the most amount of gamers that are going to come through and spend those microtransactions or whatever. But I think when you focus all in on that, then you start to lose these little battles of people who associate with the community. People who are like, oh man, like, what's the next PlayStation indie? I'm going to play this there. I'm going to come through for C4 Stray or whatever.
Yeah, if you're not getting those, you're not getting them out the gate, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I want to call out, Street Shadows thing says, deals that build a library I don't want to give up. This has been such a conversation with the Xbox crowd of like, I'm stuck here because I had it. And then also the Phil conversation from Xcast, right? Of like, we lost the worst generation to lose. People have libraries. Again, I think if you start looking at, well, PlayStation, everybody's playing the biggest games on PlayStation. They have these numbers of people playing it. Yes, that's true, but I still think those kind of gamers are going to be willing to move when the next big, better deal comes. And right now, it's what we're seeing. It's what we're talking about. Bless, you bring up, Steam being your most played thing last year, right? Mm-hmm. To look at me, Greg fucking Miller, right? And my trophies so far I can go back through January pretty quickly here on PSN profiles, right? Last trophy I got was Loco Roco. That was Ben. Trophy before that, Rocket League. That was Ben. The Resident Evil Requiem thing is there, but I played that on Switch. That was me booting it, I think, for the stream in there, right? Romeo is a Dead Man, which I think it was just that we played on my unit for the stream. Yeah. Nicktoons, Dice of Destiny, Ben. Hot Wheels, Ben. Sonic Racing, Ben. Justice League Cosmic Chaos, Ben. Finally, the last trophy I popped. Greg Miller popped on his PlayStation was in January 25th on Skate. And I assure you, that was me turning on Skate, and it was the ones I earned on my ROG Ally popping over there because they have cross everything.
Yeah, I'm glad that Street Shadow brought this up, and you brought it up as well, Greg. It's like, what I was going to say is you kind of have your players right now held hostage with this library, but as we continue to progress, as Blessing's saying, more people are buying games somewhere else. If your first-party titles aren't enough, right? When we go to, hey, I've only gotten 3 big first-party titles this year, maybe 2. Oh, now it's 4, right? If it's not enough to start building up that library to really make me go, ooh, next generation, I can't get rid of this, then players will start to leave, right? And so you got to find a better cadence of more library, more. Yeah. So I really have to go, ooh, I don't want to give this up quite yet.
And Matt Sanders in this live chat goes, and why is that though, Greg, of me, going to play elsewhere? And again, it's that PlayStation, and this is what I've talked about a million times, and not that I'm trying to throw you out, I'm just admitting I say it a lot. PlayStation lost me because it wasn't about the trophies, it was about the convenience. Yes. I loved my PlayStation because I sat down and I turned it on, and all the games I could possibly want were there. You know what I mean? With the rare Xbox exclusive, they were there, and it worked. And now I turn on the ROG Ally, I turn on my Razer Blade 16, and it works. I turn on my Xbox, I play Starfield on my big TV. Jen says it's time to go to bed. I turn it off, I go up there, I turn on the ROG Ally, the save pops there. Mm-hmm. I get this gorgeous Switch thing, and there's all these great Nintendo exclusives that are making me turn it on all end of last year into this year, and I am there, and I'm like, well, I've been playing my Switch all year long. That's all right, a few months long. Why not do Resident Evil Requiem there? Blessing says it's great. It's great there. It's that convenience of I am a gamer who wants it with me. And I think as you lose the ability of like, well, when I started giving up playing games, it's like, well, the indies aren't even there. If I want the cool new indie, it's on Steam, right? I'm going to go get it there. Maybe it's on Switch. Maybe it's over on Game Pass. Maybe it's on PlayStation, but usually it's on there. Not to mention those codes are always ready faster for us. Well, cool. Then I don't care about the trophies. And when you start eroding that, it's like, well, I'll be back for the big stuff. But what's the big stuff? What, you know what I mean? You scroll all the way back here on the games I'm playing, and it's what Yote in September 25th.
So that leads me to two thoughts, right, and 2 big points that I think are going to be a big topic of conversation. My first one being,
I love a good big topic of conversation. Yeah. And we couldn't have them without our supporters. If you love us and these big topics, because we love having them, pick up a Kinda Funny membership. Patreon.com/kindafunny, YouTube.com/kindafunnygames, Apple, Spotify. You toss us $10. We tossed you more than 80 episodes a month of ad-free content. You also get your daily dose of me, Greg Miller, in a 15 to 20-minute podcast series called Greg Way each and every day. And you get good karma for supporting an 11-person, 11-year-old small business. But right now, you're not using your benefits, so here's a word from our sponsor. You finally sit down to game. Just you, your controller, and 0 responsibilities. When your brain decides that's the perfect time to say, what if I'm secretly a terrible person and everyone can see it but me? And suddenly, relaxing and enjoying yourself is impossible. Instead, your brain grabs onto that thought and will not let it go. Here's the thing. That kind of relentless thought spiral isn't just anxiety. It could also be OCD, a condition that's way too misunderstood and way more common than most people realize. But it doesn't have to be that way. OCD needs ERP, or exposure and response prevention, which is proven to be the most effective treatment, and that's where NoCD comes in. NoCD is the world's leading provider of OCD treatment, and it's covered by insurance for over 138 million Americans. All of their licensed therapists specialize in ERP therapy and will help you learn to take the power away from the intrusive thoughts in live, face-to-face virtual sessions. If unwanted thoughts are taking over, don't wait to get help. Visit nocd.com and book a free call with their team. That's nocd.com. And we're back. One thing I haven't able, and we're going to your topic. This is just
yeah.
this is a little piece of parsley. It seems too early to be booking SGF appointments. Yeah. April 2, April 1,
April, May, June,
2
first
months
week
out.
of June. So really, it's not that
Maybe
far
it's gonna be a
away.
big SGF.
God, just
Yeah,
that's
it-
close.
Maybe it's gonna be a jam.
Greg Miller, it's
Yeah.
time. You're always busy. You're moving, bro.
So one of the things I mentioned at the top of this was that I think PlayStation this generation is broken. And one of the reasons I specify this generation is because when I look over the horizon, pun intended, I think you're going to get your shit together and have these studios not working on as many live service things. And I think we're going to start seeing those games come out, and they will be like the more traditional big single player Sony stuff. We can get into the conversation of like, what are those? But the other conversation here that I think excites us at this table more about is what's up with the handheld? Because I think you need a handheld. With everything you're saying, Greg, like the pickup and playability.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to take this thing with me.
And the success of the Portal.
Yeah.
And not only the success of the Portal, which PlayStation has admitted they didn't see coming, their continued support of it, bringing cloud streaming to it, getting it there. Like, we don't, I know, like, give them credit for selling a device, but like, and supporting a device, but like, they've done a good job with the Portal. I love my Portal.
Yes. And we're talking about, we're in the handheld era. You know what I mean? Like, you talk about the Portal, which comes directly from PlayStation, but also there are the Steam Decks, there are the ROG Allies, there's the Switch 1 and 2. People love handhelds right now. And people loved handhelds when PlayStation did handhelds, you know, RIP the Vita, even though I know that didn't see the thing that they want. But like, I think we're in a place where PlayStation can do that PC like handheld, of course, not running on I don't actually don't know how that works, but like it would be PlayStation software, hardware, or whatever. It would be meant to play your older games. When I say older, I would say like PS5 games.
I'll jump in and tell you why it is happening without a doubt.
Yeah, of course.
Going forward by prioritizing monetization of our installed base to date. As you pair that back and get it down to what is the PlayStation faithful, or what will become the new, whatever you want to call it, PlayStation faithful, those are the people who go, man, PlayStation 6 is still so far away. This thing's dropping, and it can play probably all my old PlayStation 5 games. I saw it way earlier in the chat. Someone, I'm sorry, I don't remember names because there's thousands of you were chatting. Thank you so much. Way earlier in the chat being, man, PlayStation dropped the ball by not having a Series S competitor, right? That, even though the handheld's going to be expensive, that is what this would be.
Yeah.
That's what this is going to be, of like, hey, it's the PlayStation 5, I'm assuming, S in the palm of your hand, right? And yes, if you want it in higher def, then click it over to cloud streaming, click it over to, remote playing. Go ahead, Mike.
And as Blessing said, we're in the era of handhelds. I would push that further. We're in the era of meeting the players where they're at, right?
Yeah.
That we've talked about with Xbox, and why me and Greg and Bless have praised them so much. It's like the player just wants to play their games anywhere they are, right? And I think PlayStation now, when you look forward, needs to do that. They have got the player install base. They got the great games. They need to make sure that the player doesn't have that question of, similar to what happened with me with Xbox and the erosion of jumping over to Steam, like Blessing's playing, of like, hey, I saw a lot of games that I wanted to play on Xbox were on Steam before that, and it was a long time to wait, right? Same goes now. It's like, a lot of players are going to be looking over at Steam with the Steam machine and the Steam handheld going, oh, well, I can do that. Xbox, similar, like, man, Xbox is meeting the players where they are. PlayStation, it's their turn now to say, hey, you want a handheld? We're going to meet you there. I am surprised. We'll talk about PC a little bit later, which will be a fun conversation. But like, yeah, having that PlayStation library wherever you want to play is the next big moment for PlayStation and Sony to say, we're here, spend more money with us, because we're going to make sure you can game anywhere you want to.
So let me just bring you here over there. Megan Reed.
Megan Reed?
Megan Reed, is that what it is? Why is all of it low and then R is uppercase? That doesn't help me. We're just gonna say Megan Reed. Where they are is PlayStation, though. And again, that's to my point. We got to monetize these motherfuckers. You're not buying another PlayStation 5 or a Pro because you already own it, right? They're going to want you to buy, and they're not ready to give you a PlayStation 6 because of RAM, wherever we are, install bases, yada, yada. And they know that you could sell the handheld and bring, if it's a PlayStation 5 handheld, roll those numbers in here, right? Let me bring.
I don't want you to buy a Steam. I don't want you to buy a Steam handheld. I want your money. Is right
exactly, yeah. And so, another thing Matt tossed in his BS DMs to me was that the U.S. install base of PlayStation 5 finished February at 29 million, currently trending 1.5% ahead of PlayStation 4 on a time-aligned basis, right? Which is great, but how do you keep that momentum when you hit that ceiling of it's a mature market and we've sold that many, right? Gamatsu had some stuff off of those same financial numbers that I wanted to call in just to talk about how PlayStation is doing. I don't want this to be, well, we're gonna fix it. There are 132 million monthly active users on PlayStation Network as of September 30th, which is up 3 million from the same period the previous fiscal year. PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 software combined sold 97.2 million units during the 3 months ended December 31st, 2025, which is up 1.3 million from the same period of the previous fiscal year. 13.2 million units were first-party titles, which is up 1.6 million from the same period the previous fiscal year. 76% of software sales were full game software digital downloads, which is up 2% from the same previous fiscal year. So, again, you have this momentum. You need to keep the momentum, as Matt is talking about, and to the CFO line, you got to monetize who you have. Yep. And since you can't sell another PlayStation to most people, right, you get this handheld. You put the PlayStation in a different place.
It'll be interesting to talk console pricing when we get to this next generation, because as someone in the chat wrote, Xbox players are jumping ship, right? And now it's kind of that moment. It will be very interesting of when we get to the two next consoles announced, what is the pricing of both of them? If PlayStation were to come in cheaper than the next Xbox, a lot of Xbox console players would jump there and probably stay there, as they already are doing.
Michael, let me ask you a question from the Super Chats.
Yeah.
Bam, Super Chats and says, didn't meeting the players where they are hurt Xbox much?
Yeah, I didn't like that one, Bam, because I think it only strengthened that, actually. I would push back on that and be like, I think that was the reason why a lot of Xbox players stayed around, because their library came with them to different devices. Yeah. Most importantly, when you hear Greg Miller, the PlayStation super fan, talk about Xbox, what's his most celebrated thing? Play anywhere. Oh, yeah? Smart delivery, right? If you can do that with PlayStation, where me and Blessing buy a game on our PlayStation and it is now on my handheld, maybe one day on PC on its own launcher, that's a big deal, right?
Excited, Mike.
These are the benefits that players want, right? I'm investing into these companies. They should be investing in me as well, of let's keep this guy around longer. So I wouldn't say that. There's a lot of other things that hurt Xbox, but meeting the players where they're at, absolutely not.
Yeah, not having necessarily the games or the marketing, I think, to bring them into it. But we talked about that yesterday. What I do want to bring is another super chat from Street Shadow. The Portal is the cheapest entry point into the PlayStation ecosystem. You don't need a PlayStation console anymore if you just want to play a game on the cloud. And I think, again, you're 100% correct. And it's them doing the opposite, the inverse of Xbox. Where they do that, they put that out. We all care about it. We like our Portal, great. But you don't need to put your pedal to the metal on saying that, because that's just going to confuse people. Go buy the fucking PlayStation, right? They're not shouting it from the rooftops. There aren't commercials. You don't need a PS5 anymore, right? That is there so that if you wanted to and you're that dialed in as a consumer, if you are that PC player who is never going to buy a PlayStation console, maybe this can entice you.
Yeah.
But I think that's also in their quiver, though, inevitably, if that storm hits. And they needed to do that. Everything suddenly went to shit, even though it's going really good right now. When those winds change, they do have that ability to say, well, remember, though, right here. But I think the dedicated handheld is way more sexy. But again, that's because I want to go buy it because I already own a Portal. I would do that.
And I'm somebody who, I have my Portal. I rarely use my Portal. I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of the Portal. It just doesn't appeal to me as far as the cloud aspect of it. I'm just not a big cloud person,
I don't cloud. Yeah.
And I am a native handheld person. And I think the idea of the PlayStation handheld future excites me for the fact of we've seen Steam do it. Steam has their Steam verification process. Steam has the power to do that because they're Steam, because they're the guys. PlayStation has the power to go, all right, we are going to have a verification process for games that work on the handheld thing. We can also look at what we're talking about as far as the Sifus, the Strays, I bring up Rollerdrome, even though people forget about Rollerdrome, right?
Everyone forgets about it, yes.
But it was a great game. You have games like that you could partner with and go, hey, can you make sure this works on our handheld for us? We want to push you as a premier thing for this. And if you can get some of those first party games, that's the one thing I worry about is, can a new PlayStation first party game work on a handheld? I don't know, unless you really dial in your developers and go, no, we really want to push this and make it a thing. I think that's the one thing where we get into the Xbox Series SX category, where it is, all right, now when does this thing start to hold back the bigger thing?
I would say my pushback would be, I think you'd be surprised. Most people just want to be able to play the game, right? They want to smile at it. I don't think a lot of people will poo-poo it going, this isn't up to snuff, right? They're just happy they're playing the game. And sure, there's a line there that you can't cross of now it's no, it's not worth it. But I think that crew, like you're saying, Bless, just give me something that can play. It's close to playable. We're on right there. People want that.
Yes. There's a chat. Somebody's Ottercog says counterpoint Vita didn't sell in a world without competition from Steam, right? And like the thing I'd say is that this is entirely different from Vita.
Apples and oranges, yeah.
Apples and oranges in the way that Vita brought you into a different PlayStation ecosystem, right? Like this would be the same games that you're playing.
This is why the Switch was revolutionary.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. There's no longer a console and a handheld. It's one. Like.
I love the Steam Deck, right? It's like, cool, I play Super Meat Boy 3D on one, and then on my PC, the save carries over. Super Meat Boy is a bad example because that doesn't have consoles. But for the most part, right? Like, that's so easy and simple, and it's all in the same ecosystem. And as PlayStation, if you can make that push for, hey, we have games that are playable on this thing, and it is the vast majority of your library. It might not be Crimson Desert, but it is XYZ game.
That low power mode they keep pushing.
I think that'll work. And we're talking about this in a world with DLSS, PSSR, all this shit to make games look and run better.
Yeah.
And we're also I lost my other point. I had another point I was going to talk about, but I already lost it. But yeah, we're talking about a world with that, which I think excites people. So, the other point I was going to make actually was we're also in a world where these games don't feel like they're necessarily pushing the PS5 like crazy. I'm not in a place where I'm like, I need the PlayStation 6 right now, tomorrow.
Oh God, no, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we're gonna still be there for a while. So I don't know. I think you could be able to pull it off and have a PlayStation handheld look and run well and have games that are good enough in terms of optimization.
100%. Michael, what do you want to double back to? You were throwing some things out there you couldn't wait to
talk about. You know what? The face we talked about. I am interested on live service and PC.
Sure.
Right? Those would be my two right there that I'd have a conversation about. We could start off with PC. I think PlayStation has made the correct move, moving away from PC and forcing you to buy the console, right? Like
March 4th, 2026, Sony pulls back from PlayStation games on PC. It's Jason over at Bloomberg. Sony has no longer plans to release its big PlayStation 5 games on PC, a major shift in strategy that sees a video game maker returning to console exclusivity after 6 years of flirting with multi-platform releases. Online games such as Marathon and Marvel Tokon will still be released across multiple platforms, but single-player titles such as last year's Samurai hit Ghost of Yotei and the upcoming action game Saros will remain exclusive to PlayStation 5.
Now, for the audience out there, there's Michael Howard, Snowbike Mike, who was very excited about PlayStation games coming to PC. The hope that, hey, they're doing well, let's go day and date. That's where I dreamt of us going.
Yeah.
But there's the businessman now here at the table that says, hey, if I want to remain in first place, I want to bring more people to the console. Yeah, I'm pulling them away from PC, and I'm letting them know these games are so good, you have to come here. And they've already proven that, right? And it's already been done. They've absolutely killed Xbox. They're in first place for a reason. Players on PC, these games are so good, they will come and buy that second console, or technically their first console, but they have a PC, and balance the two to play these exclusives. There's no question. That's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so, that's the right call.
Sandy Crane super chats, right, and says the issue about all this is that price of consoles needs to match the value. Xbox and PlayStation need to focus on bringing the value through games. PC not only plays games, its value is universal, which helps justify its price. I think there's a lot of truth in that statement from Sandy Crane talking about this, retreating from PC, looking at these numbers as PlayStation and be like, we got a good thing going. This PC thing was an interesting experiment. We're not getting the results we want out of it, and let's not give ourselves a cut right now, a tiny one that might get infected later on and change the way people consume, do this. Look at what's happening with Xbox. Bring everybody here.
As Bam wrote in with the other super chat, right, this is where you get into the Xbox conundrum, right? It's like, it was working, and I bet you day and days they would have sold a lot. But you know what happens there? You open the floodgate a little bit. Of now players can go, well, they're launching all their games on PC. I don't have to buy this PlayStation anymore. I'll go over there, right? And that's where Xbox lost the floodgate of like, it was fully open on day and dates, and we went over there because that gave us so much more options, right? PlayStation now is number one, wanting to stay at number one, having the high-quality titles, easily can go, hey, no more of that. Come here, and we know you're going to come here, and players will come, for sure.
Doubling back and getting some other super chats in here for some of the other things we've been talking about. Elvish for Friend says, so are we saying we want to see a divestment in new IP if we're going back to the well of old IP? Because I don't think we can do both. And I think to go back to what we were talking about in conversation there and how I feel is I'd love to see, and this isn't insulting, the first party studios make the games they want to do. I am so much more excited for Intergalactic than I think I would be for Last of Us Part 3, than I would be even for Nate Drake returning for Uncharted 5.
Yeah.
If they went and did a Cassie thing, okay, I think that's different enough where I'm like, oh, let's see what that's about. Intergalactic is that new IP. And when we're talking about Spider-Man 2, okay, not in a bad okay. I loved Spider-Man 2. I loved Ghost of Yote, but they were games that I thought I knew what they were when I went in, and I knew what they were. And now they're done, and I don't think about them often in the same way I think about Spider-Man 1 or Ghost of Tsushima. So what I'd rather see, to your point here, and what I think we're on the same page about, it sounds like, I'd love to see these first parties go crank on that new IP, that new thing, that new vision, or the old thing, whatever you want to do. Make the game you're all passionate about. Meanwhile, the Sly Cooper franchise, blow the dust off it and give it to someone to go in and make a game that isn't necessarily what you think when you think Sly Cooper. Take it and make something fun. Do a game that is a 2-year development cycle, that is a smaller 8-bit thing, you know what I mean? And toss in Ratchet, Medieval, all these things that are just sitting around, and let the other parties do what they want to do.
I very much view it as like a multi-step process, because I like talking to people who I know who work or worked at PlayStation, right? Like PlayStation's pretty good about asking their devs, but not necessarily telling their devs what to do. You know, like the studios usually have some level of autonomy in terms of picking projects. Of course, you want to do what is going to make you money, and there's always this back and forth of like, hey, we think if you do live service, it's going to make you this amount of money, and it's on the studio to be like, all right, let's do it then, right? Or hey, let's not do that because we believe in doing this other thing. Even though PlayStation's gonna have to approve it at the end of the day, there's usually that back and forth there. What I would want to see is for it to be hey, as Naughty Dog, we want to make Intergalactic. We don't want to make an Last of Us. We don't want to make Uncharted. We want to make an Intergalactic.
Yeah.
And this is to your point. I don't want then Uncharted and Last of Us to be locked by Naughty Dog. I would want it to be then PlayStation goes to their other studios and go, hey, Bend, hey, Bluepoint, RIP. Do you want to make Uncharted? Because we don't think we're going to see an Uncharted from Naughty Dog for a very long time.
It's the Fallout argument, right?
It's the Fallout argument. And then if they say no, hey, we were going to work on this other thing. All right, cool. Now let's go third party with it, right? Like I want to see kind of a process of, no, we still want to make these IPs and put these IPs out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like look inward first, and then look outward if none of your studios really want to do it.
I'll go to Barrett or you first, but that will be the delicate dance that PlayStation has, is the balance now of new IP and old IP, right? Of like, if Intergalactic comes out and it is like not lighting the world on fire, and how long these games take to make, man, we are in for a long wait for the next one, right? And so, Sony has this will be a tightrope with how small their teams are and what they make, and it's like, what do you choose here? That's going to be the balance they have to find.
In part of this conversation, what we're talking about, right? Couch Commando SuperChats and says, failing with Sons of Sparta is much better situation in learning than failing with multi-million-dollar failure like Concord. Make a smaller game first. If they hit it, then put them up for a bigger sequel. Again, we're always talking about the return on investment, the size of the investment. Go ahead and make these small investments with IPs and stuff that are dormant. Barry, what do you got for me?
And jumping right off of that, like, yes, like, let your studios like do their passion thing. You know, when they come to you and they're like, hey, we want to do something different. We want to go left when everybody expects us to go right. Awesome. Fuck yeah. Can you do it in 4 to 5 years? Like, I think a big thing that needs to be talked about as well is, you know, and we've talked slightly about it, is like dev cycles and like how sparsely these games are coming out, because especially with the bigger, you know, studios like Naughty Dog, and especially like what we know of the budget of Spider-Man 2, like those productions I think need to be brought down a little bit, because I do think eventually it's going to be unviable for like as a business practice of just like letting these devs go off for so long on like growing these budgets time and time again, that it's going to be hard to sustain keeping just those studios alive, let alone the entire like slew of studios that you have under your belt, which is why we see cuts to places like Bluepoint and to Japan Studio, right? Like that's the thing I see as well.
Yeah,
it's like I still let them be big studios, but we got to figure out like the amount that we're putting in both time and money to these big studios.
The problem with that is that we're talking about, I think the problem not necessarily being, hey, can you make this in 4 to 5 years? And Naughty Dog going, darn, I don't think we can. I think they can. And then the management and those processes just becoming unbearable and bad, right? Like I think
that's where it's like, all right, we need to figure out scope.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because DJ Mayer says, but we also push for no crunch. Can't have it both ways. We can, and there is a way to manage that situation, and it's about having a realistic scope of what these productions can look like.
So the thing I'll say, right, and I think this is some real talk when it comes to the PlayStation studios and how they operate and what that hierarchy looks like. I think Naughty Dog gets way more leeway for that type of shit because they keep putting out these games that are like, all right, these are selling tens of millions of units. All right, we'll let that we'll let it slide when Naughty Dog takes 6-7 years with it, but like not every studio has that thing necessarily, right? Like I think PlayStation looks at Insomniac and is like, thank God we have you at least because you put out games consistently, right? But like, yeah, I think with it is the fact of like, hey, we all know that management at Naughty Dog is not great at tracking like, all right, we're gonna put this. They're not great at hitting those milestones to put these games out in 3 to 4 years. But PlayStation's like, all right, well, at least we get The Last of Us 2 out of it. So
yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about the game, right, and what's going on. Spider-Man, you have a vision, we're kind of set to it. We're talking about art kind of with Last of Us, where it's like, hey, we're kind of taking this in a different direction. Oh, we want to add this. We want to do something a little bit different. It's going to take a little bit longer. That's how I look at that. It's like, Spider-Man, I know we're on the grid. We're going to make this is right. And
the grid of Manhattan.
A little bit different of that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking about how bad it is, obviously, as an industry right now, JC backfires super chats and says, just want to say as someone who got laid off from Dark Outlaw last week, this industry is brutal. Our studio is a small, nimble team of around 20 not working on a live service game and still got closed down. Of course, that was the Jason Blundell PlayStation studio that have been talked about on a podcast, never officially confirmed, and then gone.
To piggyback more off of Barrett's point, right? I think PlayStation's very excited about a studio like Team Asobi as well. Team Asobi is put out Astrobot, and they're presumably making games at a more consistent, or more at a faster rate than these AAA, or than not even the AAAs, than a Naughty Dog, right? Like, I think if we're having the conversation of how to fix PlayStation, we need more of those. We need more of those Spider-Man Miles Moraleses, right? Of like the shorter games that are still like, oh man, I'm playing my Spider-Man, but I can beat it in 7 hours or whatever, right? Or in Uncharted Lost Legacy, that it is, all right, this is a shorter thing, but it's still fantastic. We need those games that are able to be made in those 3 year
and it's that thing, right, of like what you just don't see of people
makes them
making making the engine and making the grid work and then making 3 games off of that.
Yeah.
Making them cheaper, to Barrett's point, right? Where if it was that, you know, okay, cool, we just made Uncharted, so it's so simple to go make this Uncharted spin-off. Well, it's like, why don't we just keep doing that 2 more times before while somebody's in pre-pro in the next big one.
Yeah.
Lots of super chats in here. I want to get some more before we get out of here. King James says Intergalactic has more hype for me than even GTA 6. New Naughty Dog IP is so intriguing. And again, that's another one that we talk about all the time where it's like GTA 6 is the elephant in the room, but I also feel like I know what I'm getting out of GTA 6. So it'll be harder for them to surprise me, even though I'm hope they're able to and get off of that. I like, DJ Do-It says, indies can move faster. Zaliver did the new IP plus TMNT. And that's what we're talking about, right? Of these second-party solutions you could be finding and bringing in people to go. This one I would like you guys to take on. Aaron Lime says, they need to push more family games as well. There's too much focus on the mature games, so now the only non-rated MIP that's active is Horizon.
I don't know about that. You have MLB The Show, which I know is a little bit crazy, but like
love it. Yeah.
you do have MLB The Show. You have games like Astrobot, right? I think I would love to see more of those, right? A Sackboy returning. I would like to see a Ratchet and Clank again. Jack and Daxter, right? It's like Spyro. There's a lineage there, right? But like, I don't know if you only have that, right? Like you have other titles as well.
I also just don't see. Yeah, I mean, this is such a broad term where we're talking about they need to have more family games as well. What are we talking about exactly there? Because I understand we're trying to pull kids from Roblox and Fortnite and everything else, but for me, a kid's game is still usually trash. And I play I'll let Ben play Paw Patrol. I'll put on the Bluey wing. It's like, all right, this isn't a game that's engaging. Whereas I'm trying to Google and I can't find it. Spider-Man's rated T for teen, yeah? Like Ben plays Spider-Man 2 and fucking adores it, right? It's not mature. It's something you can get into. Yeah, okay, Spider-Man is an M, says Lanky, right? And same thing, with an Astrobot or this. It's like, I don't know. Again, my hesitation on any of this would be PlayStation trying to chase kids. I don't see working. you got to chase the core gamer and then get more kids to come over there. And I know this is a conversation in a hypothesis I've thrown out so many times. It's like, but kids are only on Roblox. And it's like, yeah, I would hazard the guess that most of them were never going to come over. And I would imagine it's the same thing of when I'm growing up, the amount of kids I knew that played Mario Brothers but never wanted to get an NES of their own or never wanted to go buy another game or a system after the NES, right? Like, there's always going to be atrophy of bringing people into this hobby. Just because you love Fortnite doesn't mean you're going to love The Last of Us. And like, there's that push and pull of like people setting unrealistic expectations, which has gotten us to 2026 in this industry, and why I think you can't chase that.
Sorry, Bless, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I think I disagree in the sense of I think they know that they need more family/kids IP, because they're talking about like I play a whatever game and I know it sucks or whatever, right? Like, you play a Nintendo game and you expect that to be fantastic, and Nintendo is great at making lifelong fans. I think PlayStation wants to chase that lifelong fan thing of, hey, we got you in with an Astrobot, and the place I'll push back on the super chat is that like we do have things like Astrobot. You had a Sackboy, and I think Media Molecule needs to make the next big Little Big Planet game, pun intended, right? Like I think you need to bring that back into the rotation, but I think PlayStation looks at that prospect of being like, hey, let's get them while they're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, right? And like make them PlayStation fans then and have them grow up with the platform. And I would even expand that if I'm putting on my marketing business cap, I think they want to be able to make more adaptations that aren't rated M movies. I think they want to be able to make kids TV shows. I think they want to be able to make stuff that is able to speak to more people outside of the video games. And to do that, you got to start with the IP, which is why we see so much Horizon shit, because Horizon it's not the only non-rated M IP that PlayStation has, but it is the biggest one that they have full autonomy over, that I think speaks to that wide audience as far as, hey, we can turn this into a Lego thing. We can turn this into an adaptation for a movie or TV show, whatever it is. We can turn this into a multiplayer game, right? You can't turn God of War into Lego. You can't turn Uncharted into Lego. At least I don't think you can, because I think PlayStation should be like, it's guns. We don't want to do that. We can't turn Last of Us into Lego. I do think they need more IP to be able to do that type of thing with.
It's an interesting one because now you're talking about a big competition against Nintendo, right? And like at this moment, right, Nintendo has that market down and dialed. The parents of kids who would be buying them consoles are going to Nintendo going, well, the safe bet is Nintendo. Then eventually we'll evolve, right, to that PlayStation adult-focused games there. But like you're going to really compete. And how many ukuleles have we seen? That Lucky Foxtails game, right? It's like, these are great and there's good games there, but like they're not pushing that, right? It's like Nintendo has that. But
so, Bless, you say that like PlayStation must be thinking that, but I don't see them doing that, right? Horizon, yeah, sure, a Lego game or whatever, but it's not like we are still seeing them doing Slide, doing Jack, doing Ratchet the way we're talking about, of giving them other people and having them go.
I mean, I think they have a desire to. I think this comes back to the who's going to make the Sly, who's going to make the Jack, who's going to make these things, and also, I think within PlayStation, the conversation then ends up being, do people still care about this? Do kids care about Sly? And if we're being honest, kids right now don't care about Sly because they don't know who Sly is. Exactly. They don't care about Jack because they don't know who Jack is. But I think they look at a Little Big Planet. I think that's why we got Sackboy Big Adventure at launch. Is because they're looking at the launch lineup and going, we got to at least have a couple kids games for this thing at launch, right? Yeah. Like, I think they view that as a vertical that they don't necessarily excel at, that they desire to excel at, because that then opens so many marketing opportunities up for them.
Peaceful Warhead says the world needs Little Big Planet.
Just like a quick little look, right? Like Astrobot, 2.3 million copies sold worldwide as of March 2025. Little Big Planet, Sackboy's Big Adventure, 1.6 million copies, right? And then you flip over to Mario, right? It's like 17 million or whatever crazy number. It's like, is the 1.6 million units sold enough to justify that for PlayStation?
No, but like that's the spinoff, right? I would love to see what a modern actual Little Big Planet game could do for a PlayStation if that comes out. I don't know if that supersedes what Astrobot did, but there's something to the play, create, share thing that resonated during the PlayStation 3 era that maybe could.
No, it wouldn't, right?
No?
Like I feel like that era, I think of in play, create, share, I think so much of the Vita conversation we're having. And I would even throw in the DS, where that was like such as competitive as it was, less competitive time for games than it is now. I just feel that buy in, to jump in, to play the game, to also create the game, to unlock that, like, that's going to speak to a very core audience.
I mean, you're speaking about Roblox right now.
Yeah, but I think there's a Roblox now. I think we're back to like, I want to make the next Fortnite. No, there's a Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like it's just not going to happen.
Even Fortnite can't do Roblox.
Even Fortnite.
We're seeing that.
You're right.
Roblox
Like,
can't, Fortnite
it's back
can't do
to this
Roblox.
thing where these very specific games hit with this giant audience, and everybody goes, I can do that too. And it's like, well, no, there was a special sauce there. There was an originality to it that they hit, and you're not going to get the kid who only plays Roblox and in 2 years is not going to play games anymore to come over and do that. I just feel like you'd get more people like us. We're making levels for each other, but it's like, that's not going to bring in the money as you look at Dreams, which of course was a different ball of wax and way too complicated.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I was trying to throw to Barrett because Barrett was hanging out for a hot minute.
I can't see. When we're having a good discussion, I don't see.
No,
that.
yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I've when talking about the kids' games stuff, I don't think there's a downfall to trying to diversify your portfolio to reflect a little bit of what the PS2 was doing, where you have your God of War still, and you still have Killzone was too early for PS2, but you have your mature games that are being developed by in-house studios while still, having things like Ratchet and Jack. I don't think that's a bad idea, but again, it all comes down to managing that studio size, that budget,
Expectations.
yeah, and that expectation. Because, like Mike is saying, of like the return on Sackboy and like Ratchet and all of this stuff, this generation, did that actually reflect on what was put into those titles? So,
and like on the flip side, Ratchet and Clank over 7 million copies. So like, there's a massive win right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I worry about if you continue to only invest in the Gregs, the Blessings, the Mikes of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, your audience is going to age up and die.
yeah, and that's my thought process there is like, you got to like, there's got to be something that like sparks this like childlike nostalgia for these kids now. And even if there isn't like a return, like that can slowly build over time.
Like you can't just make PlayStation for people in their 30s.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one of like,
couldn't you?
I guess like on the flip side,
No, I
I
don't
would push
think
back
so.
and be like,
PS1
they're all playing Roblox now. Let them play Roblox, and when they mature out of that, we're here with the great games that their friends and colleagues are talking about, right? It's like, why chase that when there's already like a dominant force there that I'm not going to break through, and let them make the kids' games, and then they'll come to me.
Yeah,
I got the games.
I'm in a similar vein with that, right? Even looking back, and like you can't make it for this. I think you look back at PS1, PS2, and it really was though, right? Like PlayStation 1, we're talking about Metal Gear Solid, right? And Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
But like, I didn't
Crash
learn
Bandicoot.
I didn't learn about those until I got older. When the PS1 was out, I was playing Crash Bandicoot. I was playing Spyro the Dragon. If you would ask me,
Tony Hawk, Parappa the Rapper.
if you would ask me what's the biggest PlayStation game like 10 years ago, like the PS1 game, I would have told you Spyro the Dragon.
So here's my point though, to jump back to it, because I'm still in the same gene pool of what I was talking about, right? Where it's like, that's what brought you into games and PlayStation, and then you figured out the bigger stuff because you wanted to hang out and you loved the hobby.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo can still be the gateway drug of, PlayStation can sit here and be like, we're never going to make Fortnite and we're never going to make Mario. So is the return on investment of us going and making a platformer for kids to get them to turn on their PlayStation worth it? I think they found it with Astrobot. Keep making Astrobots. Make Astrobots faster. Ben loves Astrobot. Like, that is there for him. But it's like, you're not going to have that quality or that quantity or that clip of, you got Mario, you got Mario Kart, you got, and I'm not even just talking about Mario. So it's like, if let Nintendo usher in new gamers, and then when they do want more, they go. Now, that's the same argument I'm making for Roblox, Minecraft, whatever, because I think it's the same audience. I think there's a lot of kids who play video games and then one day go, you know what I want to do? Horseback ride. And they never play games again. And I think we have to be willing to go, that's going to happen. And then maybe they come back years later when they see something. But I think you're planting those seeds that become the gamers like us that are like, I want something more than this, or I've heard about this game that's more than what I've ever seen, and Crimson Desert? Please.
It's an interesting conversation. Yeah, Bless. I think to myself, it's like, yeah, Nintendo's got that, Roblox has got that, but also like, yeah, what if we did put out Sly Coopers and Sackboys, and like we kind of filled in that gap of that catalog of like what Greg's saying is like, oh, Lil Susie went off and like played this, or Ben stopped playing games. He came back and wanted a little bit of that childhood nostalgia, but also like almost a pre-teen teen game that is a Sly Cooper platformer. Maybe that wins him over.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll ever be number one or even top three when it comes to this, as far as PlayStation putting out kids stuff, right? You're not going to compete directly with a Mario. You're not going to compete directly with Roblox and Minecraft and stuff. But I think I do look at the success specifically on the Nintendo side more so than the like Minecraft and stuff, because those are just on a different level, right? But when I look at what Nintendo does, the fact that new kids are falling in love with Mario, to me,
loves them.
To me, speaks to the idea of like, no, there's potential there to bring people in if you find these characters, if you find something that is attractive enough to kids for them to fall in love with, they'll fall in love with that thing, right? Like, yeah, the fact that Ben's into Mario, the fact that I look at my nephews and I'm like, you like Mario? Like, that's crazy to me. I think you could find something like that as PlayStation. Not on that level, but again, I'm looking at the idea of being able to diversify, like Barrett's talking about, and speak to fans at a younger age. Doesn't have to be your biggest game. It could be a Little Big Planet. It could be maybe one or two more games like Astrobot. I don't even know if it's a platformer at that point, right? It could be whatever, but I think you want to do that and then have that be a thing that you can expand upon and make more iterations of.
Okay. We fixed PlayStation.
We did it.
Audience, chat, commenter, listener, what do you think you do? Or what does PlayStation need to do? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? Let us know in the comments on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, Spotify, wherever you can leave a comment. Scream it out your window. Maybe we'll hear you. Of course, thank you for watching this episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast. We're here each and every weekday. Of course, we're on a live talk show network called Kinda Funny. You can watch it twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, youtube.com/kindafunnygames, podcast services around the globe. We are not done with our programming day. From here, we roll into Super Mario Galaxy in review. After that, I am Jesus Christ. Me and Nick are doing it. We're going to be the Messiah, everybody. It's going to be great. Of course, if you're not watching live and you want to catch any of that, check out YouTube, like, subscribe, share. Of course, pick up a Kinda Funny membership, patreon.com/kindafunny, youtube.com/kindafunnygames, Apple, Spotify, to get everything ad-free. Get your daily dose of me and an exclusive podcast called Gregway. And of course, get good karma. For now, however, the Gamescast is done, so it's been our pleasure to serve you.